Oh, John Green, your love of turtles is truly admirable. Can I help you with something? I already did the Horroween video today, guys. Episode, I think, what are we up to, like 5? Yeah, that's not till tomorrow. I'm having some downtime, alright? I'm not always on, you know. Sometimes I just enjoy a good book. And already... Hold on. Yeah, what is it? What do you mean I gotta do the freaking review? It's in my contract. What? Oh, for the love of God. Oh, I have other stuff to do, you know. You know what? Fine, it's whatever. Okay, do we have an intro? I guess he uses an intro for that. Go ahead and play the intro, and I'll get it ready. Go for it, I guess. Okay, hey, whoa, stop. I do not remember giving my consent to appear in that cringy intro, alright? So obviously I must have been drunk off my ass. It's okay, it happens, it's part of my life, I have to accept it, but we're not playing the rest of the intro. We're just getting down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, here we go. One Piece, chapter 883 review, titled Tea Time, or Snack Time, or Marinda. It's Snack Time. The title of the chapter is named Snack Time. Okay, so we start off with a cover page. We're now focusing on probably the least liked members of the Straw Hat Grand Fleets, or maybe not most liked, but just, you know, nobody really cares all that much about him. It's Ideo's group. And remember, Ideo never really even had a pirate crew. He was part of the XXX martial art gym place. And, you know, he learned, like, how to box and stuff there. And after the events of Dressrosa, he gathered together Blue Gilly, who was a long leg, and also, which is interesting, because from what we've seen so far, at least in right now, long legs and long arms don't really get along all too well, so that's an interesting pair there, Blue Gilly and Ideo. And then also we have Abdul and Jeet. I also think they joined up. So last time we saw them approaching, like, warring vessels, and they had a ship that was given to them by Orlumbius, whatever, and they were like, oh, okay, well, let's just get on that. Like, most people tend to, like, oh, there are these two ships changing fire back and forth. We should probably avoid that. But no, these guys just jump headlong into the fray, and we see that the warring ships are actually, there's a long leg tribe and a long arm tribe, and they're just going at it. And so Ideo and Blue Gilly and Abdul and G, they just jump on board, and they just start going after both parties, really. Just want a good scuffle, you know? So I don't know where this is going to go, although if I had an option, if I had an input I can give, I would really enjoy more introspective into, like, the long leg and long arm, like, cultures. Because we don't really know anything about them, really. I mean, long arms a little bit. They have Kenzen Island. That's the island where Brook, you know, was taken after Hungaria, and he was, like, you know, forced to sing for the long arms. So we know a little bit about their culture. It's kind of like Chinese-based. But not all of them are like that. Like, we know Apu is kind of like that. He has that, like, Chinese aesthetic. Ideo certainly doesn't. And we don't know really anything about the long legs at all. So if we get a little more into their cultures, and hey, maybe they'll have to use, like, diplomacy or something to figure their way out of this. Or they could just, you know, keep on blowing stuff up. Either way, alright. So anyway, we get into the actual chapter. We continue on the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, and this is a chapter that is completely focused on that. We don't have a bunch of cutaways from, like, oh, this is what's going on the Thousand Sunny, this is what's going on with Perospero, you know, Big Mom still wants her cake, you know, obviously, or Sanji and the cake and pudding and everything like that. This chapter is solely focused on Katakuri versus Luffy, and we get some interesting things from that. So, from going on from last chapter, Luffy was trapped by Katakuri's, you know, flowing mochi using his awakened devil fruit, and then Luffy, you know, brings his arm up ready to use Gear Fourth, his muscle balloon, and Katakuri can see a little bit into the future. So he's like, he foresees Luffy at the start of this chapter saying, you know, Gear Fourth! Or if you go a weeby Japanesey with it, Gear Force! Which I think sounds cooler because it's like Gear Force! Like I'm gonna force this King Kong gun right down your freaking mochi throat, Katakuri! Yeah! Bring it on, Luffy! And he just gets cock-blocked. Okay, of course he does. Well, I mean, hey, Katakuri could see it coming. Although last chapter he was like, Gear Fourth, I am intrigued. And in this chapter he's like, nope, no Gear Fourth, I am no longer intrigued. So he stops Luffy from doing it, trapping him in the mochi. And you know, he comes out and he says, you know, why would I let you just have such an obvious power-up? You know, maybe at first he saw him saying Gear Fourth, and Katakuri was like, okay, I'm intrigued. But then as, you know, the seconds passed, he saw a little bit more into the future, and he's like, okay, no, we're not doing this. And so he traps him in the mochi. So the top of the mirror world begins to, like, congeal into mochi. And remember, the mirror world is like a pocket universe. It's so weird. So it's like they're inside this little mini pocket universe being created by Brulee's Devil Fruit ability, which is just made out of, like, a tiled floor and all the various mirrors. We don't really, like, what is the tiled floor, like, physically made out of? Like, is it stone? Is it, like, metal? Is it some weird other material we don't know? Because it's, like, technically a different realm, a different universe that Brulee has complete control over. But it begins to congeal. It's affected by Katakuri's mochi powers either way. The mirrors, as long as with the tiled floor, begins to congeal on top of Luffy, about to just drip down on him. And Luffy's looking up like, oh, no, if that drops on me, and then Katakuri kind of finishes his sentence, is like, yeah, you'll be crushed by, like, a ton of mochi, and you won't be able to move. Exactly right. So, yeah, here's this evening's freaking premiere entertainment, and then just, and then, the shape that the mochi forms, you know, you have a bunch of mochi, like, patties stacked up on top of each other, and then you have a little orange on the top of it. Now, the orange or the mandarin, whatever, it's probably also made out of mochi, but this is referencing the New Year's tradition in Japan, the Kagami mochi, which is a tradition in Japan around that time of year. So that's what that's referencing. And so you see Luffy's arm, like, wiggling out underneath it. It's like, and then just falls. And Katakuri's just like, you know, I'm kind of sorry for finishing it up like this, but I did accept your strength. I did not pull my punches with you in the slightest. I knew you were a threat, and so I went full in, you know, and I'm sorry to end it this way, but it was really the quickest way to do it. And by the way, you made me late for my snack time, and so he thinks, like, I've missed it by 40 minutes now, and he just has, like, a biological clock that he just knows, because we find out by the pastry chefs that arrive, that are also in the mirror world, they're, like, freaking out, because they're like, oh, Master Katakuri, we're so sorry, we know that you missed your tea time, and I'm like, what the fuck, what's going on here? Like, okay, snack time, like, is this his quirk? You know, every character needs a little quirk, you know, something to make them kind of, like, unique or whatever. I'm like, okay, Katakuri's is snack time. He really needs his snack time. Like, all right, you know what? I miss snack time. Don't laugh at Katakuri. Do you remember that? Being back in, like, preschool or whatever it was? You know, I went to preschool. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you had, like, daycare or something. I didn't have that. But, you know, like, same basic premise. You know, get a bunch of kids together and get away off from their parents' hands for a while. And then you have, like, nap time. And you have, like, oh, here's some cookies and milk. And I miss my cookies and milk. Katakuri has this shit down pat. So he's like, yeah, every day at 3 o'clock sharp, Katakuri does his snack time or his tea time, during which time the pastry chefs prepare him, you know, whatever sweets he desires. In this particular day, it's donuts and tea. However, because, you know, he had to spend time fighting Luffy for 40 minutes, the tea has now become cold. You know, I don't know about you, but if there's only some crazy invention that would allow you to put, like, a warm liquid on top of it to keep it as a warm liquid, I don't know what such an invention would exist. But, you know, whatever. And so they're like, oh, I'm sorry, our tea is cold. And Katakuri, though, Katakuri's pretty chill. He's like, it's okay. Iced tea will be fine. And he's kind of twitching. You see his mouth's just like we can't see his mouth, but, you know, it's just like, okay. Yeah, iced tea's fine. Let's just I'm getting antsy already. I'm already stressed out. This guy, you know, rubber dude, let's just have the tea time. And I'm like, okay. Didn't expect this chapter to go in that direction, did you? Like, all of a sudden, Katakuri has to stomp Luffy out with mochi because it's like, I gotta do my tea time. So, he creates a mochi temple, which actually might be referencing another Japanese tradition, the kamidana, which is the thing that, it's kind of like a household shrine that you have, and during the New Year's celebration, that's where you would put the kagami mochi inside, the kamidana, like this little miniature shrine. So maybe that's what it's referencing, I'm not sure. So, he makes this shrine, and so, around all the sweets that they were prepared, you know, for him, like all the donuts and everything, and the iced tea, they're inside, and he's like, okay, I'm going in, don't disturb me, and all of the chefs are cool with that. They're like, yep, sir, we will not, of course we won't, we understand. And as Katakuri goes into the mochi temple to begin his snack time and tea time, the chefs are just out there just kind of talking about how badass he is. He's like, man, That's a real man's man right there. I'll tell you what, yeah. I wish I could be I wish I could be the 1/17th of that man right there. He goes in and he secludes himself with the food. And he consumes it in such a dignified manner. You know, that is Katakuri. That is the man with over a 1 billion berry bounty. So dignified, so strong. The man that will never be defeated. The man that will never lie down. In there, enjoying, in solitude. Kind of like Jiren from, like, Dragon Ball Super, to use a reference. He's just meditating. He's in there meditating with his food and just... yes, this is so peaceful. That is the man right there. So in the background, while they're basically just verbally jerking off Katakuri, we have Luffy chewing through the mochi, like, and he finally breaks out of it. He's super fat, as you could figure, and he's like, I freaking hate eating mochi! Okay, so there's the answer to your question. I mean, I kind of already figured that because everyone was asking, you know, why doesn't Luffy just eat the mochi? Well, first off, there's way too much mochi. And Luffy, like, Katakuri's sending, like, wave after wave of mochi at him. Luffy cannot stop and just be like, hold on a second, as I eat my way out of this mochi prison, because Katakuri, like, oh, okay, I'll give you your time. No, he's just going to cover him with more. It's not the same thing as with Cracker, because Cracker was honestly kind of an idiot that kept, like, in that standoff with Luffy for, what was that, like 10 hours, where Cracker creates a Cracker Soldier, Nami douses it with water, Luffy eats it. Cracker creates another Cracker Soldier, Nami douses it with water, Luffy eats it. This process went on for 10 hours, Cracker. Come on now. Like, you think at like the 3.5 hour mark, you'd be like, maybe I should stop doing the thing that they want me to do. You know, like obviously, right? But with Katakuri, it was like way too much, so that made sense. And then you also figure Luffy might just not like mochi. But hey, if he ever encounters the person that ate the meat fruit, then that will be an interesting time. Well, maybe it'll be a zone fruit that's like becomes a pig or a cow, you know? Although no, if you're gonna have a zone fruit that's a cow, you gotta have it be a woman because of the... Okay, I'm gonna get away from my fantasies for a moment there. Luffy comes out of the mochi, and he's like, okay, look, I'm tired with fighting this pirate crew. What is with this? I cannot win a fight without eating. Now, normally Luffy would be cool with that, but things like crackers and you know, like the mochi, and he's at, like, the cake, you know, at one point Luffy's just like, this is a weird way for me to win fights, you know? These are not the kind of fights I'm used to having. So, Luffy immediately jumps out of the mochi, and he screams over to the chefs. He's like, where's that mochi guy? Where's Katakuri? And the chefs are like, they can't tell Luffy where he is because he's gonna break into the temple, and that's a big no-no. So they're like, oh, yeah, Master Katakuri, he left. He had business to attend to. He's not in the mirror world anymore. Of course, Luffy has observation, so he just points over to doesn't even really need to have observation. Like, what about that very obvious house, ornate temple shrine made out of mochi that wasn't there like 5 minutes ago? What about that? Maybe I should check that place out. But no, Luffy's just like, I sense a strong presence from there. And they're like, oh shit, observation hockey. And then he's like, he's eating donuts. And they're all like, wait, what? Well, he's right, but is that observation hockey too? I'm like, no, that's just Luffy's nose. That's just the thing he has. So he jumps down and goes right at the temple, and all the chefs are like, oh no, don't do it! And Luffy just charges up Elephant Gun. Oh, by the way, he runs like away and like around in a circle really quick, so he burns off all of his calories. If I was Luffy, I would have went gear 4th, like right out of the gate, because that way you would have still burned the calories and you would have been able to actually get a pretty damn... Because we've already seen him block Elephant Gun, right? So if you went... He's in the temple. He's doing his own thing. He's distracted. Luffy, go gear 4th, and you have all the time in the world to set up a giant King Kong gun to just blast the entire shrine into oblivion. But whatever. Luffy just runs around, burns off all the calories, goes gear 3rd, Elephant Gun, crashes through the freaking temple, and boom, we have the reveal of Katakuri in all of his splendor? Donuts, donuts, yummy, yummy, yummy. Donuts, donuts, yummy in my tummy. I love donuts all the day. I love donuts. Oh, what the hell? Okay, so this is supposed to be like the big reveal for Katakuri. This is supposed to be the thing that's like everyone's supposed to be like... Which, by the way, I already told you that. Go watch my Horroween video for Katakuri. I already told you he was a freaking fraud. But really, in all honesty, is it really that embarrassing? I mean, like, yeah, we had, like, Brûlé and all the chefs, you know, going on and on and on about how Katakuri, you know, he's so badass, he's so strong, he's never lied down once in his life. And I never really took that literally, not me personally. I never actually took that to the mean, like, he's never physically laid down a single time. Because I'm like, all right, like, you could tell me all about, like, a really badass warrior from the past. You could tell me, like, William Wallace, hero of the Scots. He was so strong. He cut down so many enemies. But he also went home and he laid down on his back and fell asleep. And I'd be like, whoa, he's not a real warrior. Guy lays down with us, so that's not really a big thing for me. You know, I never took it literally. And also, like, what is he doing? He's just in there eating food. That's all he's doing. He's not even doing it, like, real. I mean, he's acting completely opposite what he was acting. Like, he is acting kind of like a 5-year-old kid at snack time, just like, yummy, I love donuts. But who doesn't love donuts? What do you have against donuts? Donuts are awesome. Okay, let me rephrase that. Have you ever not sat down with, like, donuts in front of you, and as you were eating donuts, like, you know, just maybe you're singing it out loud, maybe you're just humming it, maybe you're thinking it to yourself, but come on now. We all know when you're sitting down and eating donuts, you're just like, that song that Katakuri's singing, it's in your head at the bare minimum. If you're not singing it like, donuts are yummy. Come on now, we've all done it once. All right, so yeah, it's not even that embarrassing. What would be more embarrassing? What would be the actual thing that would make me be like, holy crap, this guy's a freaking fraud? I don't know, like, okay, okay, I got something. This is kind of disgusting, but I'll go with it. You know how, like, everybody in Totland loves food, you know, Big Mom loves it, all the children of Big Mom have, like, a particular food they're named after, and they like eating a particular food. In Katakuri's case, it seems to be donuts. Like, what if we spun it, what if Oda spun it in a way where Katakuri was, like, really in love with donuts? If you need me to clarify more, okay, Luffy uses the elephant gun, breaks open the wall, and we just see Katakuri stripped naked, and, you know, we just see the back of his ass, and he's just, like, feverishly jerking off to the donuts. Like, just like, oh, donuts, yummy in my tummy! Yeah, okay, if we saw him doing that, that would be the moment where I'd be like, oh, okay, this guy's a total freaking weirdo, you know? But him just lying on the ground, just like, and by the way, his mouth, yeah, he's got fangs, which, yeah, I got him too, so that's cool. He's got fangs, which actually makes him look way more intimidating, and using his mochi powers, he can, like, stretch out his lower jaw so he can shove these giant donuts in at once. But at the end of the day, it's just a dude enjoying his afternoon snack. Alright, whatever. And all the chefs are kind of like, whoa, really? Luffy doesn't really care. Luffy kind of breaks through it, and he's remembering all the stuff that Brûlé told about him, you know, like, oh, he's such an honorable dude, and he's never lied down in battle, and now he's this, and Luffy never really thinks about it. Luffy's not like, you're a complete fraud! He never really thinks that. He just remembers and thinks it's kind of ironic. But anyway, yeah, so Katakuri sees him do this, and the chefs see him as well, and even after Luffy launches the attack, it doesn't do any damage to him, but Katakuri gets up, and he just kind of, like, takes his scarf and just puts it back over his mouth. He's like, you saw it, didn't you? And the chefs are like, oh, no, and then they all die. Katakuri skewers all those guys, and no one's getting out of that alive. And Luffy's more focused on the fight. He doesn't really care. Luffy doesn't really care about him lying down or whatever. His image has been damaged, who cares? Luffy's just like, the fight's not over yet! And so they charge up, and Katakuri uses something called block mochi, where he takes his arm and he transforms it into, like, you know, like a rectangle, and all of his, you know, hands, everything gets, like, rectangular or like a square, and then he combines that with his haki, making, you know, block mochi armament. And I guess this just means creates more of a, you know, destructive power because everything's, like, blocky now. I guess, I don't know, like a piston firing rather than just a regular fist. I don't know what the advantage is here. Maybe higher defense, you know, I don't know. But anyway, he uses that against Luffy. Luffy manages to punch him, and it, like, causes a crackle of, it looks like, I don't think it's Conquerors, I think it's just armament at this point. But Luffy, even using armament, gets knocked back, like, how, that was freaking, ow, whew. And you have a scene with Katakuri there that says, these are things that surpass armament. I cannot let those who have seen my true form live. So, I don't know if that means, like, there's levels greater than hockey. Like, you know, we've already seen that with observation. Like, there's a level beyond standard observation. There's a level beyond standard armament. I don't know if that's what that means, or it means simply like when he says there are things that surpass armament, maybe he was thinking about like rage or pride, you know, like my pride as this gallant figure in the Big Mom crew. You know, you've disrupted that. You've revealed my form. The power that I am, the searing hatred I feel for you right now for seeing me like that surpasses any level of armament hockey you've dealt with, and that's why this is so much stronger. It's like my pure rage now. So I don't know if he meant it like, it's like literally like, this is armament hockey level 2! Or if he just meant like, I'm really pissed at you, so I'm gonna hit you even harder. You know, like beyond armament. So he hits him again, and Luffy's arms are just like, ow! I would imagine, though, if Luffy didn't armament up, like, he would not have hands right now. Like, they would have just gotten blown off by Katakuri. But no, he still has his hands. They're just kind of weak there. Katakuri gears up for another attack. Luffy kind of, you know, dodges and kicks him right in the freaking chin. And this time, he actually manages to connect. Not only connect, but it seems to do a little damage. We see Katakuri bleeding a little bit. And he's like, whoa, he didn't dodge it? Yeah, he even got in a kick. And so Katakuri's like, And so you see the scene where Katakuri's like, you know, charging up all his mochi, sending it at Luffy. He's like, oh, okay, you got a hit off on me. Who cares? Who cares? So what? And so he uses raindrop mochi to attack Luffy. Luffy goes gear 4th. Finally, at this moment, goes gear 4th. Bit confused on why Katakuri didn't see that. Maybe he's getting a little bit too. His powers he's a little bit jarred by what happened, so his powers aren't working great. Luffy goes gear 4th, and he states that, oh, you're definitely super strong, but you're not invincible. I figured out your power now. And then he goes gear 4th, Kongung, right into Katakuri. That's where the chapter ends. Katakuri blocks it with his arms. His block mochi with armament seems to block. It doesn't look like he took that much damage from Kongung. Remember, even with Cracker, you know, his Cracker armor was able to block a Kongun. So one Kongun, even Doflamingo was still able to walk around just fine after taking one of those. So that's not going to be really a deciding factor, but it's going to do more damage than anything else Luffy's probably done up to this point. So Luffy states that, I know your power, I get how it works. How does this go down? So, you know, there's a few ways you can look at this. There's actually a lot, actually. I'm just going to rattle them all off. Number one, because he's a special paramecia, the rules are a little different from the intangibility that we've seen displayed. So he obviously can turn at least parts of his body intangible. We've seen like attacks pass through him and bullets and stuff. But maybe because he's not a true Logia, the intangibility thing is not reflexive. Or he has to be focused on something. He can't just turn into mochi whenever he wants. He has to physically think about it. Maybe that's a weakness very catered to a special paramecia as compared to a true Logia. That could be one thing. Another thing is because he's an awakened fruit user, the rules are a little different there. Like while he's busy manipulating the environment using his awakening, he himself can't use the fruit on himself. Maybe. So he's like, I'm using raindrop mochi, I can't turn into mochi while I'm doing this. And then that's when, you know, Luffy hits him or whatever. Another thing is he's just so jarred, he's just so out of his regular way of thinking because of Luffy exposing him for the donut glutton that he is, that he's not thinking straight and he couldn't block it, or his observation hockey's not working right. So take your pick out of any of those three. The reason that Luffy was able to hit him, the weakness of his powers. Either it's a weakness because of a special paramecia, there's like a drawback from that we don't know. It's a weakness because of an awakening drawback we didn't know, or it's just a weakness because of his current mental state. But Luffy, the way Luffy states it is like a fundamental weakness with your power. Like, oh, I figured out how this works now. So I'm going to think it's one of the two. I think it's like one of the two, like he can't turn into mochi while doing something else, or there's something else going on. Yeah, he figured out the weakness there. And by the way, I did not see, maybe he did, but when Luffy kicked Katakuri, I did not see any hockey on his foot. I thought it was just a regular kick. So, I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe like, I guess it did have hockey, maybe. It looks like his leg has it, but his actual foot doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it's like the reverse. You know, like, oh, like a regular attack will hurt him because we've been so used to fighting with hockey for the past 200 chapters. I don't know. I don't know how that goes down. But it was a cool chapter to see an entire fight focused on Luffy and Katakuri, even though we had to, you know, cut it down the middle with a freaking snack break. But whatever. It was cool to see Katakuri's mouth and the fangs. It looked really, honestly, he looks more threatening now than he did. Kind of like a wild animal that just got his like meal ruined, and now he's like, now he's pissed. So yeah, I don't see why, you know, he likes his donuts, whatever. Did you see those things? They look delicious. Put me in a tiny little room with all those donuts, I'd probably be like, oh, donuts, yummy, yummy in my tummy. I'm gonna stop doing that now. But anyway, yeah, okay, so are we good now? Are we good with this whole mess? Can I go back to reading my book after I figure out a way to get my cloak back on? You know, that's good right there. That's nice. My vampiric cloak. All right, yeah, you guys have a good one. Horroween's gonna be back tomorrow. And I'm gonna go figure out what's going on with this murder mystery, you know, we got going on here involving turtles. You guys have a good one. Yes, signing out.